Welcome back. You're watching a special edition of the Global Dialogue. We're in conversation with the directors of the US-India Business Council on the opportunities that exist for both sides. You talked about some of the areas that excite you in India today, and that's where you're putting your money, quite literally. Take me through what is looking good in the portfolio today. What would you like to diversify into outside of the two examples that you shared with us?
So in our portfolio, there are really three major areas. One is what we call deep technology, including manufacturing. And I shared one example, IdeaForge, Agnikul would fall in that category. Second is tech-enabled transformation. This is a very exciting area in India, applying IoT to transform vertical sectors. So it's a very interesting company. We've invested named Stellapse, which applies IoT to milk production. And then they've actually gone into the whole supply chain of procuring milk, monitoring its quality, delivering it to customers. So this is an amazing way in which that whole traditional process is being transformed by technology, and they're doing extremely well. There are like 43,000 villages or so procuring milk. There's another interesting company that we've invested in called Brick and Bolt, which makes houses, and they will deliver a house to you from start to finish in 8 to 10 months. And as the middle class grows, and as infrastructure grows, and there are more highways that take you easily out of cities, people will want independent houses. And that's another good example of technology being applied to a very traditional business, namely home building. The third area is really applying technology to healthcare. And a great example there is a company called 5C Network, which applies AI to radiology. So it brings advanced diagnosis to, it makes advanced diagnosis available across the country by applying technology to all kinds of radiology. And so on. Another example is Connect and Heal, providing healthcare to literally hundreds of thousands of people. Again, technology plays an underlying role in all of these. So India is just full of opportunity to apply technology, both to design technology for global use and also to apply technology to vast sectors in the country.
A potential area of partnership for India and the US, and I think both leaders spoke about this when President Biden was here for the G20. India, of course, is chairing the Global Alliance for AI as well, is putting together a regulatory framework. The G20 has attempted to do that as far as cryptocurrency is concerned, but perhaps also putting together a regulatory framework for AI. Do you believe that that is an area of potential partnership and collaboration?
I think so. I think definitely having some guidelines, because there are serious fears that people around the world have on the unregulated growth of AI. So having enabling guidelines rather than restrictive guidelines is really important. I think certainly the US and India should collaborate on creating those enabling guidelines.
So Kami, what is it finally going to mean in terms of future investments into India? Given the fact that this is the big bet that each one of you is making from a FedEx perspective, what can we expect over the next few years in terms of building out the network?
Yeah, so I think, you were asking what is exciting about India. And I think for us, it's, of course, the opportunity we talked about in terms of the growth in manufacturing and exports, and the fact that there is, significant GDP growth expected over the next few years, relative macroeconomic stability, and a government that's trade-friendly, forging bilaterals with other countries, and even with the U.S., there are pockets of cooperation on the trade front and so forth, and also the push towards the production-linked incentive scheme, and so I think there is a strong growth orientation. But in addition to that, I think for us, what is exciting is the innovation ecosystem. So we recently launched what we call FedEx Innovation Lab, where we invest in early-stage startups. With the idea that we will engage with them on their technologies and business models and see how we can bring our global scale network and customer base to scale up and potentially transform what we are doing as well. So driving corporate innovation from India. And I think the third thing I would say is leveraging India talent for the enterprise. So we recently announced that we are setting up a advanced capability community in Hyderabad. And that team, as well as other teams that we are now considering to set up in other parts of the country as well, will support multiple enterprise functions for FedEx. And I think how these three interweave and play into each other is where the real excitement is. Because to succeed in the India market, we believe we need to innovate and offer a differentiated value proposition. And in order to innovate, we want to use and leverage India talent. And that's something which we can scale beyond India as we prove out the proposition in India. And I think that's really the opportunity that excites us.
And I think that's an opportunity that many companies, not just FedEx, but many companies, global GCCs in India, working on IP, working on innovation, working on R&D, that's actually been a big part of the story that we've seen building out over the last few years. From a talent perspective, from a sourcing perspective, from an export, as well as a Make in India, for India perspective, leave me with some numbers on what we should look forward to.
So, I mean, as I said, we've got about 1,000 engineers in our Jack Welch Technology Center. We'll keep on strengthening that. We have about 13 suppliers in India for whom sourcing, and that's grown about 20 times in the last 4 to 5 years. In terms of our engines, probably we are delivering approximately 3 aircrafts per week, which will be powered by GE or its joint venture over the next 9 to 10 years. So, as I said, we'll keep
3 aircraft per week from India?
No, to India.
To India, okay.
To India. To India will be delivered, which will be powered by GE or its joint ventures, CFM. So that probably will happen over the next 9 to 10 years. And as I said, we'll keep on strengthening the ecosystem, our research center, our sourcing, and our joint ventures with Tata. So that's
more joint ventures on the anvil?
I can't commit right now, so.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the India opportunity, but let me end by asking each one of you about the U.S. opportunity that Indian companies, Indian entrepreneurs should be looking at, and especially in the context of the Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act as well. What are the possible opportunities that Indian entrepreneurs should be looking at? I'll start with you.
Well, technology is clearly one.
Yeah.
There's tremendous amount of technology talent in the country, and many of those solutions and products will have global applications. So the US is a very natural country to go to. And we have an example again, so I'm not talking theoretically. There's a company called Pixis, which you might be aware of. You've seen them actually in Silicon Valley, I think. So it started here in Bangalore. It's really generative AI. They were probably doing under $10 million of revenues working just in India. By going there, they've grown manifold. That's a good example of great technology born here, taken there, and taken global. So I see many such examples in the pipeline.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a deepening of the India-U.S. startup corridor as well. Kami, the one opportunity that Indian entrepreneurs, Indian businesses should look at?
I think smarter supply chains. So providing visibility using data and technology that will enable prediction of where things could go wrong and help intervention ahead of time. Provide insights around carbon emissions so that we move more towards green supply chains. I think those are some of the opportunities, and some of the startups that we are engaging with are really building for the world. They're born in India, but they're building for the world. So their DNA is global to start with. And I think that's where I think the big opportunity lies.
Vikram?
Air taxis.
Air taxis.
Yeah, I think
that's the way to go.
That's the way to go. Yeah.
Okay. We look forward to that being a reality as well. But thank you very much, Vikram, Kami, and Arun, for joining us here as part of this special conversation. There's plenty of headroom for growth in the areas that we've talked about here, especially in areas of technology where both sides have committed to deepening and strengthening the partnership as we move forward. But for this evening, we leave you with plenty of food for thought from all of us here on the USIBC Seizing India Opportunity Moment. Thanks very much for watching. We'll take a quick break and return with the news on CNBC-TV18.